the Donton case really does a nice job of contrasting the New York Rizzo case with Pennsylvania's new substantial step law. Remember the Rizzo case where the folks in the car clearly planned to rob the paymaster, and they were riding around looking for him. And the court said, even though undeniably the defendants have shown the intent to rob the paymaster when they find him, their mere riding around and looking for him is not going to be sufficient to show the proximity required for the old common law test, the pre-model penal code test, often described as an overt act. In New York at the time, it was described as an act tending toward the completion of the crime, which seems like it's a fairly easy standard to satisfy, but it turns out it's certainly not as easy as the new model penal code substantial step. In Rizzo, riding around looking for the paymaster is not sufficiently close to the completion of the crime, regardless of how much proof you have on the intent to actually rob the paymaster. But now comes the Donton case in Pennsylvania under the substantial step test. We saw in the Tennessee Reeves case, the distinction between the Dupuy case and the Reeves case, how that you didn't have to be nearly as close to completing the crime to be guilty of an attempt under the model penal code. And under the Donton case, you see where the defendant clearly evinced his intent to shoot his estranged wife, to shoot her and then shoot himself. You know, he tells his son he's going to go do this, and the son tries to keep him from doing that. And he says, no, you just need to take this like a man. I'm going to do this. And after he left to drive 90 miles to kill his estranged wife, the son finds these letters that clearly, basically they're suicide notes describing, asking for forgiveness for what he's done, and that this is the only way that the two of them can be together forever because she won't have him back in this life. And so the question then becomes whether clear intent, like we had in Rizzo, plus driving 90 miles to try to find his estranged wife, driving to where he knows she is, whether that is, because he's intercepted before he gets to the house, but he drives past the house a couple times, whether that driving to the house with clear intent is sufficient to show attempt to commit the murder. Riding around looking for the paymaster with clear intent was not sufficient under the common law standard in the New York Rizzo case, but under Donton, under the Pennsylvania substantial step test, which is the model penal code test, which makes it easier to show proximity, which allows the evil actor who has clearly done something consistent with his intent to commit the crime. When you have that combination, the model penal code drafters wanted it to be easier for the police to intercept these folks and for these folks to be incarcerated so that other people would be deterred from engaging in similar attempts, and so that the public would be safe from these particular types of actors. And so under the new model penal code standard, this is sufficient. That combined with the clear intent that we undeniably have, or clear evidence of intent, and then driving 90 miles to find his estranged wife, that's sufficient under the model penal code. But very similar acts, the clear intent plus driving around looking for the paymaster to rob, was not enough to show attempted robbery under the common law standard in New York under Rizzo. So these are just great cases, along with the Reeves case itself in Tennessee, that shows you how cases can break down differently depending on whether we are looking at the model penal code substantial step test or the common law's overt act test, or it was, as it was described in the New York statute, tending toward the commission of the crime.